Welcome back to Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin here. Yogi Roth of the Big Ten Network here once again to talk about the USC Trojans, a program you've covered for a very long time, dating back to the days of the Pac-12, RIP. And
Pac-10.
Pac-10, yes.
Yeah,
even in the Pac-10. How about that? That's how long he's been around college football. Not trying to date you here, of course, Yogi. But the Trojans come into this season, I don't think where they expected to based on where they entered last year. I think there were higher hopes. I had higher hopes for USC last season. They come with 6-6. They do get the bowl win against Texas A&M, 2-0 against the SEC. Not a bad year for the Trojans, but I feel like the season they had last year has ratcheted up the pressure on Lincoln Riley this year to have, I don't think he needs to have a 10, 11, 12 win season, but it feels like he's got to be in that 8-9 win range and at least hunt around the playoff discussion, or 2026 might be hot seat talk. That's the way I read it.
Yeah, I think that's probably a narrative around the country. Great to see you, by the way.
Likewise,
man. Success, man. I love watching you grow as well. I can remember when you first started all this content that you're creating now. It's amazing whenever I see it on social or pop through my feed. To that point on Lincoln, I think if I was going to talk to the USC fan, or even the college football fan in general that just thinks SC should be Pete Carroll SC, a couple reminders. One, if you took out Pete's 9-year run from 1980 to now, how many 10-win seasons do you think the Trojans have had?
Well, see, Clay Helton had one. I think there was one with Lane Kiffin in there when they were on probation. I'll put a couple. I'll say 5.
From 1980. Think about that. From 1980 to 2025. You're close. It's 6. It's Larry Smith.
I'm pretty proud of that guess. I'm not going to lie.
Blaine, Sark, Clay had 2, and Lincoln had 1. So I say all that of like, everybody thinks, I think, that SC is supposed to win all the time. Like, it's traditionally been hard. And that was in the Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12, and now here on the Big Ten with 18 teams. In addition, in the Big Ten last year, there's 31 conference games decided by a score or less.
Right.
Lincoln Riley was in a lot of those, right? I mean, 2 and 5 in one-score games. To that point, I believe this about SC, and I said it last year. I said last year is a foundational year. So if we rewind, year 1, lightning in a bottle. Caleb, away we go. Year 2, let's continue to lean on Caleb and supplement the losses up front in the portal. Didn't work. Year 3, let's reset. And he said this on my podcast about a month and a half ago of, we needed a reset. We were going to build it in high school recruiting, change our defensive staff. And last year, I kept calling it a foundational year in the program. And I think it was. All those close games that I referenced, they had a quarterback change, the defense got settled, and they didn't have a first-round draft pick. They didn't have a game record on the defensive front. Right? I think Jalen Smith was their first player drafted in the 3rd round at safety or in the secondary. To that point, here comes year 2 now, and I think that foundation has been set, and I think, to your point, they will take the next step. Now, the question is, who is their game record? Who is their game record? Who's the guy on the defense front that's just going to end the game? And I think in this league, and I've been running it by coaches since we've been here at Media Days, of Big Ten's always been a good scheme league, great scheme league. I think now it's a matchup league in terms of, like, it reminds me of the NFL, in terms of late in the game. You're going to need Jade Mayava, Amakai, Lemon, Jacoby Lane. They're going to have to make a play. They're going to have to win on 3rd down. Ball's going to have to be perfect, and the coverage is going to have to be right. The blitz, I think that's how these games are going to go. It's going to feel like the NFL a lot. So you look at Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Jonathan at Michigan State, like Michigan. These teams that I would consider like a little bit below Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State talent-wise this year. There's 10 to 12 teams that can knock each other off every weekend.
Yeah.
Right? Wisconsin and Purdue are kind of like unknowns, but the rest of the league, anybody can get anybody. So will they be 6-6? Maybe. Will they be 9-3? Maybe. Like, I think they'll have that moment, but I think with how they're recruiting, Chad Bowden as the GM, it's kind of like Lincoln's gotten 2 bites of the apple as a head coach. First 2 years, reset. It's almost like here's, to me, like almost like year 2 of him as the head coach, and I know that's not reality. I know fans are pissed. They're like, hey, it's year 4. Like, you should be going to the playoff every year. Pete did it in year 2. We're in the Orange Bowl. We never lost ever since. It's a different era. It's a different league, man. So I just think the perspective on that, and if they did have a tough year to change, you're just going to set it back again.
Yeah.
You know, like, in my opinion, because I think there's momentum there. So to the Trojan fans out there, I hear you. Graduated, master's degree at SC. I'm calling their opener. Always love the Trojans. Always pulling for them. Except when I'm calling games, you're just calling the game. But I think they're really heading the right way. And then once it turns, it won't stop. It won't stop. It won't stop. You see it in recruiting this year?
Yeah, and I think with the recruiting class, I wanted to bring that up. That does kind of shift the narrative of sorts surrounding USC, because in the last couple of years, it was, hey, we're going in the wrong direction here. It was 11 wins, and then 7, and then 6 in the regular season. and the recruiting isn't where it should be. Well, now you look up and it's like, well, USC has the number 1 class, and I know plenty of people think, well, they won't finish with the number 1 class. Their floor is a top 5 class, which is where USC should be, right? With the amount of talent in Southern California, it's insane. So
the amount of commits in Southern California that they have.
Yes,
I mean, that's really the story.
Exactly. Is they've really attacked that, and Chad Bowden, to your point, coming over from Notre Dame has been a huge piece of it. But I think it shifts, or it should shift, the perception of Lincoln Riley a little bit. And I like what you said that, this is kind of year 2. Like the first couple years, they tried an approach, and it was one good, one bad. But then they realized, okay, we can't sustain this. This is not how we're going to build going forward, and we have to attack the high school recruiting. Well, now they are, and so I wonder how. Let's say I'm predicting them to go 8-4. I think they're going to split. Yeah, I think the Michigan schools could give them a tough time in the middle. I think Notre Dame on the road is a difficult game. I do think some of those one-score games flip back in their favor. And now that I've said that, they'll be Scott Frost, Nebraska. Yeah, like that jinx has just been put out there. So I apologize, USC fans, for putting that out there. But typically when you're in those one-score games and you lose a bunch of them, they tend to flip back. But the door swings both ways. Typically, if you win a bunch of them, it's like, you're going to regress back to the mean. For USC, that should be. I mean, they're 1 play away from beating Michigan. They're a 2-point conversion stop away from beating, Penn State. Minnesota and Maryland were close games. I think Maryland was 29-28. Yeah. Maryland went for 2. Like, you get a stop there, and you get 1 stop on the goal line against Michigan, and suddenly, 8-4, and that feels a lot different. But I want you to talk about the recruiting aspect of. Let's say, I over predict USC's record for a second straight year. Let's say they go just 7-5. Do you think that lands differently because, hey, we have number 1, number 2 recruiting class in the country?
I don't know. I think that they'll have to message and communicate throughout the season. Right? I mean, the voice from outside can be so loud, like on social media, and that voice matters. But in the pie of mattering, like, it shouldn't be very much, right, in my opinion. Jen Cohen and company, like, they'll assess where they're at. To me, I love the recruiting class, and it reminds me of what we did back in the day. Like, if you said to me, all right, be the GM of USC football, I would say, take what we did back in the day under Pete and modernize it. So what did we do back in the day? We recruited the Daylats out of Bakersfield to San Diego, and you only left California for a first-round pick. Brian Cushing, Patrick Turner, John David Booty, like you could see the names, right? Like there weren't a lot of misses. Mike Williams, like you didn't go out of state and miss very often. And I see them now doing that. And this class, there's a world where they're going to play early, right? So if you really buy into the vision of this thing, and they're paying Lincoln for a long time, right? Like a lot of money, at least reportedly, that they got us. To me, it'd be smart to play the long game in this. Bring these young players in, right? Jane Mayava, he has 2 seasons left. Who knows? Maybe he balls out and leaves. You got Hassan Longstreet. Right? Like you've got a nice class. You got a freshman quarterback or a high school quarterback, a senior. I just saw at Elite 11, absolutely balled out. Like I think they've got and are continually getting talent. So 7-5, here comes this hungry freshman class, and can you flip it in that regard? Like here's some more pieces that I think can elevate. You look at like Decory Moore at Oregon. He's a freshman. To me, he's a starter. Like I think SC's class has some players like that can really impact them on the field when they get there. And then you're leaning on it. And the challenge is, and I'm gonna say this again today on set, is every team in this league got better. Every team got better from last year, roster-wise. It's the best class of quarterback play in the history of the Big Ten, in my opinion. History of Big Ten.
Even with all the guys that haven't quite proven it yet, like there's
not as many as you think. 5 quarterbacks return with 5+ starts on their respective team, and then who do we bring in? Fernando Mendoza, 20+ starts in his career. Like you start looking down the roster, and you're like, okay, Iowa, Mark Gronowski, back-to-back championships at his level with the current head coach at Washington State.
Right.
You start looking at the schools. You look at Nico Iamaleava. It's the first players that Josh Rosen I would pay to go see play. At UCLA as a fan, I'm like, I can't wait to watch this dude. Like everybody talks about the drama. This will let his team to the playoff. Like he's not like he's a bad player. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the history of recruiting in his not history, but in recruiting his year that he came out. Then you look at the unproven players. You can look at Drake Lindsey, who might be one of the better quarterbacks PJ Fleck's ever coached. And he was hanging on the coattails of Max Brosmer a year ago. I look at Preston Stone coming in Northwestern. Like, you look at just
Sneaky nice quarterback move
Aiden
by David
Childs will
Braun.
be in his next year.
Yeah.
I think Dante Moore might be the first quarterback drafted out of this group. I think he's a monster. I think he's even won the job officially. And I think Austin Novosad is a baller too. Like,
Yeah.
Oregon has the best quarterback room in this league. Drew Aller, like, you start going through the list. Julian's saying, like, it's loaded, man. Which means these games are going to be tight, and it come down to these moments. So, to your point on USC recruiting, if they finish 7-5, like, hang on to that class and keep selling what they've sold. You're going to come play early. We did that back in the day. We'd have a team meeting where we show every player on the team, the 25, 30 guys, highlight videos. Be like, hey, I can remember it like yesterday. Hey, Thomas Williams. Hey, Ray Malunga. Hey, Oscar Lua. This guy's coming to take your job. And we told him, just like we told you, he's going to get a run with the ones first day of training camp. And they would. And the whole idea was, you're not going to prove that you're getting screwed. You're going to prove that you're willing and ready to play, or prove that you're not able to play. And that was really cool, because as a freshman, you're like, yeah, you're ready. Third down, blitz pickup, like, I'm on Longstreet. Yeah, I need to be better. And it was a great way. And I see when I'm at SC practice and talking to the staff, I think that's where they're headed, man. So I'm bullish on them, but it won't be easy. Nebraska, Raiola, like, there's so many of these guys that are coming back that are going to be hard to beat. So you're going to have to be on it. These games are going to be tight late.
Yeah, I like what you said about, the games kind of being decided on the margins or late. Because, I think about a team like Michigan State, where do I think they have a top third roster in the Big Ten? No. Is it top half? Maybe not. But Jonathan Smith has overperformed with, having less talent before. He's in his second, and let's not pretend like Michigan State was a disaster last year. Like, could they compete with the big kids? No. They weren't able to do that in year one, but in year two, can they take a step forward?
Go watch the Ohio State game. Go watch the Michigan State-Ohio State game again. If it's not for the turnovers inside the red zone, like, it's a 0-0 game at half.
Right.
That's what I mean by, like, these, the steps of Aiden Childs, the steps of Damon Williams, the steps of Dylan Raiola, the growth of Dante Moore. Like,
yeah.
I think it's so not talked about. So not talked about. And I know a lot of these guys from my time at Elite 11, and you go to these campuses, you watch them compete. I just think at quarterback, I always look for unique traits. Like, you have to have one. And when I go down this list of projected starters, I see a unique trait in each guy, for the most part.
A lot of traits.
Going out of Purdue. But even like Billy Edwards, his unique trait is professionalism. He comes in there, these guys see what it's like to work as a starting quarterback. Like, this is his last shot. He's got a ton to prove. Like, there's a sense of urgency there. I just think that's going to allow these teams to get the best out of their rosters every week. And that's why I think these games are going to be tight. Like, I can't wait to call. Like, I don't get the best game in the Big Ten. Cool. Because every game's going to be hyper-competitive.
Yeah.
We had 7 games last year. We called our crew bangers only. There was only bangers every week. Like, it was sick.
Awesome.
So Guy Averman and Rhett Lewis, like,
Yeah.
we're going to run it back again, hopefully, because I think it'll be that tight.
That's awesome. Yogi Roth, USC. Great as always. Bangers only.
Bangers
My
only.
man.
Let's
Appreciate
go.
it.
Let's go.
Michigan is 1 year away. I'll tell you why next.